Hello everyone, and welcome to our World Masterpieces 1 brief lecture on Homer and the Iliad. I want to start off today's lecture with some brief remarks on Homer. Homer is often lauded as the greatest poet of ancient Greece. However, little is known about his personal life. The rough estimate is that he was born somewhere around 750 before the Common Era. Also, many scholars seem to suggest through reading his works that he might have been a blind poet. Also, please note that scholars are very skeptical about whether or not Homer wrote both the Iliad and the Odyssey, citing most frequently the large differences in the language between the two. Some of the historical background of the Iliad is that obviously we see that it is a clash of two great civilizations, and that is the Trojans and the Greeks. We see that the poem is largely affected by the wars that were raging when Homer was alive, and we also see a common theme throughout that the effects of the war on the winners and the losers of the Trojan War are the main focus. We know that the Iliad was composed almost 3,000 years ago, and that it is rich and vivid in its details, and also documents the desires for honor and violence, as well as desires for peace and home. The Iliad was developed from a thriving oral tradition, as we noted were most other epic tales. It makes use of folk narratives of real conflict, and it is important to note that the real world of Homer is neither purely historical, nor is it purely fictional. If you notice, the actual form that the poem takes is similar to that of On the Nature of Things, as both are presented in a hexameter pattern. Both the Iliad and the Odyssey constitute what is called an epic cycle, whereas one is completed by the other, and so on and so forth. We notice right away, as we look at this excerpt from the Iliad, that we're dealing with some themes that we've already discussed somewhat in class. The question of the glory of war looms large, as does the devastating effects of war due to the arrogance of leaders. We also see the importance of military honor underscored, and as well as the impermanence of human existence. We also see, as opposed to, say, in the Epic of Gilgamesh, that in these ancient Greek epic poems, the gods are constantly interfering with human affairs. We also see that there is both an internal and an external struggle going on with most of our major characters. Anger, jealousy, revenge, honor, courage, heroism, and the like, all of these themes are complexly interwoven into the poem itself. Some common motifs and symbols that we see in this excerpt of the poem also are armor, burial, ships, shields, and fire, which, as we discussed in class, are often plot devices to signal to the reader not only who the character is, because again, this was told in an oral tradition, and constantly reminding the audience was key for them keeping up with the story, but it also can have a deeper symbolism, which we will go more into in our class discussion. The Iliad itself is centered on Troy, which in Greek means Ilias. It is considered to be the precursor to the Odyssey, and it is noted that the poem actually begins 10 years into the Trojan War rather than at the very beginning of the action. It is a violent poem focusing on the ransom of people and, of course, war itself. It's also interesting to note that it does not focus on the differences between the Greeks and Trojans, the main players, at least human players in this poem, but rather on the differences between humans and gods. For Monday, I would like you to either please write or type a one-page response to this prompt. Citing from the text, compare and contrast Achilles with Gilgamesh. What insight do these two characters give us into the human condition? Please bring your responses to class on Monday the 16th and be prepared to discuss it and the excerpt from the Iliad. Have a great weekend, guys. I'll miss you on Friday, but I will see all of you at 10 a.m. on Monday.